Welcome into Pigskin with Pancakes. I'm back. I'm the
Thank
host.
goodness
Thank
you're
God.
back.
Everybody was really
Thank
worried. I'm
goodness.
here, and I have saved these two from having to host a show ever again.
Yes.
My name is Paige DeMacos. I'm here with Jamie Eisner and Chris Schubert. It's a lovely Sunday morning in Phoenix, Arizona. We'll start things off with that because everything else is a disaster. All of football is a disaster. All of fantasy is a disaster. Everybody's hurt, and we're all just trying to figure it out.
Everybody's on a bye, everybody's hurt, and everybody sucks.
That's
what it boils down to, everybody.
Other than that, everything's great.
Everything's great other than
great.
that.
Yeah, the weather's great. So that's what we're going with. But we're going to kick things off with the Bucs and the Bills playing early in the morning. And the thing here is Jameis Winston was one of the most people we talked about the most heading into this season. We talked about Jameis Winston a lot. There was a lot of hope that both he and Marcus Mariota would take huge steps forward. That hasn't happened. So, Jamie and Chris, let's talk about this matchup and let's talk about Jameis Winston.
Yeah, apparently we gave Jameis Winston the MVP trophy and the Bucs a Super Bowl trophy before we actually should have done it.
I love when that happens. I love when we do that.
Well, we just decide, hey, you know what, we're just going to give all these awards away, and then the season never, ever goes how we expect it. But for this matchup in particular, the Bills have only allowed 2 passing touchdowns, have 8 interceptions as a defense. It's not a great matchup for Winston, who's, again, he's banged up. He's hurt. Think of what Cam Newton was doing early this season. I think it's going to be a lot like that. I would be very wary of starting him.
Yeah, the issue with Jameis is we don't know to the extent of that injury. We don't know what it's going to limit him to be able to do this week. And it doesn't help that he's going up against a defense that so far has been very successful this season. I am staying away from Jameis Winston this week. I actually benched him in favor of somebody else. I'm not going to give that away just yet.
With tease.
But I sat
down
down Jameis Winston this week in favor of perhaps maybe my crush of the week, perhaps.
Well, here's the thing. When we're getting a lot of questions throughout the week about Jameis Winston, his status, first and foremost, whether or not he's going to play, and then when he plays, if he's a startable guy. He's not startable at this point. Doesn't matter if he's playing or not. It's because he is hurt, and that's what Jamie said earlier. So let's talk about the impact of him not playing with all these other offensive players, because a guy like Mike Evans is one of the best wide receivers in the game. If Jameis is not in, that impacts his fantasy value.
Yeah, normally this would be a good matchup for Mike Evans. Buffalo's really struggled to slow down #1 wide receivers, but when there's question marks at the quarterback position, it almost doesn't matter what the matchup looks like.
Yeah.
I think the bigger thing here is what this does to their entire offense as a whole. Do they run the ball a little bit more to maybe take some of the pressure off Jameis Winston? I know the Bills are pretty good against the run this season, allowing just 3.6 yards per rushing attempt. Do they try to get Doug Martin involved to maybe open up the passing game? I'm not sure what this looks like. It concerns me to play any of these guys.
Yeah, but if you're taking a guess, if you're looking at this offense as a whole and you're saying, okay, because there's a lot of offensive pieces. I mean, Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, Doug Martin, a lot of pieces that people own. If you were taking a guess of who is going to be the guy who has a decent week enough to start, who is that guy this week?
There might be Cameron Brate. Buffalo hasn't been great against tight ends. They haven't allowed a touchdown yet, but touchdowns are kind of fluky.
Yeah.
61% success rate to targets to tight ends against Buffalo this year. Brate's the pass catcher that you want in Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be the guy because if Jameis can't throw the ball down the field, he's going to have to keep it short. That's where maybe a Cameron Brate, maybe O.J. Howard gets you see more 2 tight end sets this week, maybe.
Love O.J.
I do. I love O.J. Howard, and this may be a week.
I love that Jamie rolled his eyes. So I was saying
this may be a week to get him involved. You go to more 2 tight end sets. You can run some play action off of the run with Doug Martin. I don't hate it this week, but again, doesn't ooze confidence anybody in this matchup this week.
All right, on the flip side, the Bills. Is there anybody not named LaShawn McCoy that you feel comfortable starting?
You like Tyrod Taylor this week?
I do. Buccaneers 31st.
You love Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah,
Let's just go there.
driving this.
You love Tyrod.
I loved him until he made me spend money on Chris.
Yeah, that was when it was over.
It made Chris happy because he got a good breakfast in the morning, and I don't like anything that makes Chris happy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Very true.
But Tampa Bay 31st in DVOA and pass defense. I like the matchup for Tyrod Taylor. Again, LaShawn McCoy we all love. He still leads the Buffalo in targets. Despite the fact that the Bills just don't ever use a wide receiver ever, I think Tyrod Taylor will actually be a good play. I like him obviously more than the other quarterback in this matchup.
Can we name more than 2 Buffalo wide receivers as a group?
Does Zay Jones count? Does he have more than 4 catches
does
yet?
Does Zay Jones count?
He counts.
Does he come out is he going to be in this year's draft? It's going to be a redraft.
Is Sammy Watkins
can
still
he?
in Buffalo?
Well, hold on. If he doesn't play enough, can he then go back?
Yeah, can he re-enter the draft?
Can he re-enter the draft, or is he eligible for Rookie of the Year next year?
Yeah,
if he
it's a rough time. But we talked about this going into the season. We weren't sure what Buffalo was doing as a whole offensively, and it seems like they figured it out. They're just running the ball to LaShawn McCoy, and that's it.
And make Tyrod Taylor make just enough plays. Don't make him make all of the plays. And the big
thing it's a recipe for success thus far.
The big thing for them is when Charles Clay went down, how are they going to restructure their offense? I still think we're seeing them kind of work through that and identify themselves. They've been impressive. They've been playing really well. They have some big wins over the Broncos and in Atlanta, so they've impressed with their ability to win games. But in terms of fantasy, I still think they're looking for their identity outside of LaShawn McCoy.
I love Jamie's note here at the end. Start a Buffalo wide receiver at your own peril. There's nothing.
We can't name more than one.
Yeah, no, that is the best way to sum up this matchup. But let's move into the Panthers and the Bears. They're playing Carolina, going on the road to play Chicago. Chicago, for whatever reason, everybody says it's because of the turf, plays a little bit better. It seems to do funky things to teams coming into Chicago. I think of an Atlanta. I think of a Pittsburgh. Both high-powered offenses struggled in Chicago. So a lot of question marks here with Cam Newton and others. Devin Funchess, who's gonna have that breakout game? Cam has been elevating his game throughout the last few weeks. How do you guys feel about Cam Newton?
Well, if you're a Cam Newton owner, you're happy because he's rushing more. 11 attempts last week, and as a common theme on the show, running quarterbacks pick up points for you, and they raise that floor, so they don't really have these awful games. But to your point, here's an interesting stat: the Bears have not allowed more than 235 passing yards in a game since week 1. So Cam Newton might not have a huge game through the air, but if he's going to run 8, 9, 10, even 11 times again, you'll be good to go.
Are the Bears' defense, are they coming back?
No.
Are they a thing?
No. Don't do this, Paige. Don't make them a thing.
We get to justify your Jets fandom.
No. With numbers.
The Jets aren't a thing either.
Those are numbers.
Wins and losses.
These are stats.
Wins.
All right.
And
well,
losses.
when the Bears upset Carolina today, we'll see who's talking.
Are you going on record with that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
But who else do we like? I know we talked about Devin Funchess before we got on the show. He's a guy that continuously, I think, is earning more credibility as a guy that you feel comfortable starting.
So I have a question for the person who the person who put this part of the stat package together this week.
Okay.
Because I have a guy in here playing on my fantasy team this week. Jamie, can you read word for word what you have said here about Jonathan Stewart? Word for word. Can you read
I will read this.
Okay.
The Bears have not allowed a 100-yard rusher yet this season. Jonathan Stewart sucks. The end.
I'm playing Jonathan Stewart this week in my fantasy league.
I would rather play a Bills wide receiver.
Oh my God, this is so good. This is quality right here.
See, this is what happens when you're back.
One side or the other. So let's take it. Jonathan Stewart or a Buffalo Bills wide receiver? I love this question.
I'm taking Jonathan Stewart because I have to play him this week because of Leonard Fournette being hurt. It has impacted my running back situation, so I'm playing Jonathan Stewart. But yes, to your point, the Bears have done very well against the run this year. The question that I have is, what is Christian McCaffrey's role in this offense? Because he's not running the ball. Jonathan Stewart's going to be the guy that gets all the touches on the ground. So is Christian McCaffrey just solely a pass catcher that they just kind of disguise back there as a running back? Because that's what it's been so far.
Here's breaking news on this one. I don't think Carolina knows what they're doing with Christian McCaffrey. I don't think it's for us to try and sit here and decide. I don't think they can figure out how they want to utilize him in this offense, which is why, as a fantasy owner, I am staying far away from Christian McCaffrey at this point.
This is where the preseason hype got out of hand.
Yes.
Carolina is going to use McCaffrey in different ways in year 1, but think of him as a third down pass catching back right now. Don't think of what he did at Stanford. Think about how he's actually being used this season. And if you're a McCaffrey owner, you're probably frustrated because he was overdrafted, but this is what he's going to be. He's still a decent play in PPR formats, but in standard leagues, neither one of these backs is really startable.
It's just funny to see that heading into the season, the talks of Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey in the same sentence when they're in different galaxies in fantasy football right now.
So far, yes.
It is not close, and that's because Leonard Fournette came in to be the #1 back. In Carolina, they still have Jonathan Stewart, and he still has been the guy there thus far. All right, let's talk about the Bears.
Okay.
Let's talk about that side of the football. Is there anybody that we like from Chicago? I mean, I love you, Mitch. I love everybody there, but offensively, Marcus Wheaton's sitting out this week. If another team you can't name a wide receiver from, the Chicago Bears, running back wise, Jordan Howard's probably the only thing you really like here, and maybe a Tariq Cohen.
I still don't hate the Tariq Cohen bandwagon jumping by everyone to get off the Tariq Cohen bandwagon. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I think people are just misunderstanding the type of player Tariq Cohen is and the way he's used on offense. And we talked about this a little bit last week. When we're talking about the limited number of touches Cohen is going to get, special teams count. Right now, what he is doing on the punt and return team is almost as valuable, if not more valuable, than getting a couple extra snaps on offense. He's going to be prone to big plays. He's going to have moments where he has these blow-up weeks. But they have a very capable running back there in Jordan Howard. They're not going to overuse Cohen.
No, and they're also just figuring themselves out offensively. With starting a rookie, this will be his third game where he's coming into play, and maybe there's a little bit more where you're looking at Tariq Cohen being involved in this offense. I think the good thing for you to realize is that Marcus Wheaton is sitting out. So during practice this week, I guess that we're seeing a little bit more of Tariq Cohen set up in a wide receiver spot, which makes sense because they don't have a lot of other wide receivers. So you feel good about Jordan Howard. Maybe you start a Tariq Cohen. Is there anybody else here from this matchup specifically you guys like?
I mean, if you're desperate, the Panthers have allowed multiple passing touchdowns in each of the last 4 games. If you're in a 2 QB league and you need a reason to start Mitch Trubisky.
Paige doesn't need a reason to start Mitchell Trubisky.
I love you, Mitch, but no. I'm sorry. I can't do that. I can't. Not in fantasy. I want to win fantasy. I can separate the two. That's where I know sometimes you have tough times where you can't separate the two. I can separate the two.
Tight ends have had success, so maybe Zach Miller, 4 touchdowns to tight ends allowed by the Carolina in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so maybe
and the
that should play.
Yeah, and tight end position is really just garbage overall, so maybe that's the play overall. Chris, any parting thoughts on this matchup? You going to drop any wisdom here?
No, Mitchell Trubisky, don't play him.
Wow. Okay, moving on from Chris's lack of giving us anything for that matchup. All right, we're going to talk about this premier matchup, the Titans and the Browns. This is a premier fantasy football matchup, and by premier, I mean the opposite of premier. We're going to start things off with talking about Marcus Mariota. I know we have a graphic here. I know we want to talk about Marcus here specifically. I'll let Jamie do the talking.
Yeah, so I don't think it's breaking news to tell you the Browns are bad at football.
Wait, really?
Wow.
So
we
they're
have
not
like a
very
breaking
good.
news sounder for this?
But here's how bad they are against the pass. 32nd out of 32, so that's not good.
Wow.
Yeah, Matt checks out on that.
In pass DVOA, Mariota threw for 284 yards and 3 touchdowns in their matchup in Week 6 of last season. If there's ever a week to start Marcus Mariota, it is this week.
He's also another week healthy, another week back with this offense. You're feeling good. I know Marcus Mariota hasn't been similar to what we talked about with Jameis Winston. He's been kind of a lesser quarterback, this team overall has been kind of a disappointment thus far. But Marcus Mariota is trending forward. He's trending upward, which is a good thing. And there's never a better time than playing the Browns to start trending even more in a positive direction.
Let's also remember, I'm not saying not to play Marcus Mariota, but let's remember he's coming back from that injury. It took him a little bit to get into that game and get going. And now it's a short week because that game was Monday night. So you play Marcus Mariota, but I'm not as high on Marcus Mariota as the rest of the room is.
Oh, wow. Marcus Mariota hatred.
Maybe somebody
Chris.
in the room picked the Browns to win this week. Maybe, just maybe.
Okay, well, there's someone in the room that's not very smart.
Okay,
and we'll let you guys take the guess at who that person is.
Guess.
Jamie, anybody else you really like? DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry, a lot of talk about who to choose in that matchup. I always lean towards DeMarco Murray because he still is the workhorse back, especially because a lot of what happened last week with Derrick Henry was those junk points on one play.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to start one of the two, it continues to be Murray. Although I would temper expectations this week. The Browns have played the run very well. The Browns have played the Titans against the run very well in their last matchup. So I'm not too excited. Rashad Matthews, might be a good play this week. As we talked about, the Browns can't stop anything in the passing game. 82.2 yards per game allowed to #1 receivers. Last year, 3 for 70 and a touchdown. So I think Matthews is a solid play this week as a flex.
I love your note on Eric Decker.
I was just going to get to
We
this,
got it.
Yeah.
So Jamie, you just got to read word for word what you got here for Eric Decker because I love it.
So Eric Decker was finally used last week.
With an exclamation point.
About time. Got 9 targets, but the Browns do well against #2 wide receivers. I'm still in wait-and-see mode with Eric Decker just because they looked at him once. I'm not sure they're going to do it again, and he's got a new quarterback this week.
3 tight ends to touchdowns in the last 3 weeks for the Browns. So Delaney Walker, who is scheduled to play, both him and DeMarco Murray are slated to play this week. A lot of injuries this week. Everyone's hurt.
Yeah, Delaney Walker's in that top 12 tight end category. You got to start him every week. Okay, Jamie, I know you got a little haters gonna hate here.
Oh no, already?
Oh yeah.
We're 14 minutes in.
Yeah, but
so I'm gonna,
that tends to happen when you're talking about the Browns.
So hold on, I'm gonna go pick up whoever Jamie's talking about this week and play him. So hold on.
So my back and forth on the haters gonna hate because last week I told you not to play Adrian Peterson.
That works really well.
Oops.
That worked out really well.
Also, this will be the week Adrian Peterson gets like 10 carries for 14 yards.
100%.
Isaiah Crowell. Do not play Isaiah Crowell. This is something we've talked about on multiple shows now, Crowell versus Duke Johnson. Titans have not allowed a single rusher to have more than 77 yards this season. Crowell had 1.8 yards per carry in a matchup last year. This is a theme here. The Titans should be able to throw for days on Cleveland. They're not going to be able to run Cleveland's going to be able to throw the ball a little bit here, but they're not going to be able to run. 1.8 yards per carry for Crowell.
Here's the thing.
Not great.
I had Isaiah Crowell last year. I tried to tell people, you start him for the first 4 weeks of the season, and then you sit him. You make him ride the pine, because this is what he does every year. It's a theme for him. This is a trend. We talk about trends in fantasy football. He tends to start off well, then they bring in Duke Johnson, and Duke Johnson becomes the guy there. So this is a guy I'm in complete agreement with Jamie's haters going to hate. I would have put him on my list probably the last 3 weeks, just because overall it's the Duke Johnson show there in Cleveland, and that show is still not very good.
Yeah, Duke Johnson's the back you want, especially in PPR leagues. He's more versatile. He's used more in the offense in different formations. 74 total yards on 8 touches in this matchup last year. That's the back you want in Cleveland.
Can't wait for Isaiah Crowell to go for 152 touchdowns
in the first quarter.
The first half.
You want to put a wager on it? You think you're feeling confident today?
No, I'm not.
That's what I thought.
Not as confident.
Where your mouth is. I thought that's...
No, because you know what? I've had so much success with some of the on-air bets that we've made in terms of winning breakfast from Jamie. I don't want to risk my perfect record. Yeah, I'm one.
That's singular.
I'm undefeated.
You want to know?
Undefeated. Never
Retire.
Lost.
Put my jersey in the rafters. Okay.
All right, LeVar Ball. All right, moving on. We're going to talk about the Saints and the Packers. This game, obviously, the biggest storyline here. Aaron Rodgers is not playing quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. So what does that mean? That means that this whole offensive unit takes a hit, because overall, if Aaron Rodgers, the best player in the game, is not playing, you have no idea what to expect from Brett Hundley. So Jamie, Chris, what are we expecting from the Jordy Nelsons, Devontae Adams, these guys of the world?
I'm concerned.
You're concerned.
I'm concerned because, one, we got to see, 3 quarters worth of Brett Hundley last week?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the offense is going to be. Are they going to lean on the run? Are they going to go to Aaron Jones and Ty Montgomery? What is this offense going to look like? Because, honestly, Aaron Rodgers makes throws that no one else in this league can make.
I want to hear about Jordy Nelson, though, because this week I think that Jordy Nelson is the only guy to own here, because he is the workhorse guy. He's the guy that people depend on, and I think if I'm starting any of those guys, it's Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, and we have an interesting stat here on Jordy Nelson. I got to credit to Wes Anderson of Inside the Numbers here at FanRag Sports to give that a read every week. It's a must-read before you set your lineups. But in the last 9 games without Aaron Rodgers as a starting quarterback, Jordy Nelson has averaged 4.67 catches, 68.33 yards, and about a half a touchdown per game. So what I'm saying is he's not going to be the elite top echelon #1 wide receiver, but he could be a low-end #1, a high-end #2. Hundley targeted him 9 times last week. He is going to get his.
He's going to be the only guy that I think I feel comfortable here, because of Devontae Adams. I don't really feel... Ty Montgomery has still been kind of wishy-washy. Aaron Jones, I don't know what I like offensively from a usual must-start across the board. The only person that I think maybe benefits from this is Martellus Bennett, who has been horrible thus far, who might end up being more a part of this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this all the time. Young, inexperienced, or rookie quarterbacks love the tight end. This may be the opportunity for Martellus Bennett to break out and have a good game. But I'm with you guys. I mean, Jordy, you know he's going to be the #1. You know that Brett Hundley's going to try to get him the football. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to like here from the Green Bay side of things.
I know that we talked about heading into this that Willie Snead is not going to be playing in this game, so that's somebody to make sure he's out of your lineup, because he was a guy that had just come back, was starting to be more involved in that offense, and obviously is not playing today. So from the Saints side of the ball, the Saints are really clicking now. They've really come on over the last few weeks in totality and are scoring a lot of points, which as a fantasy owner, you really, really like. So who do you like? We're always starting Drew Brees. Well, let's talk about some of these other offensive pieces.
Yeah, I think Mike Thomas is a very good start. Green Bay's allowing almost 84 yards per game to #1 wide receivers. And
yikes.
Green Bay's actually played the pass fairly well for reasons I don't fully understand.
Yeah, because their cornerbacks are not that good.
Their corners are not very good.
Yeah, but I think Mike Thomas is a big game here. Again, you do have to worry a little bit with Drew Brees on the road, not in a dome. It's not quite the same megastar that he is at home, but I think he's going to have a decent game this week.
I wonder if with Willie Snead being out, this increases the value of Ted Ginn this week. It was my concern when Snead came back that Ted Ginn was going to see his role reduced. Yeah. Now with Snead being out this week and Ginn being a guy that Drew Brees counted on there in the first couple of weeks, I wonder if his role kind of gets increased.
There's no way that his value doesn't go up. I mean, with Snead sitting out there, the targets have to go somewhere. You know that Drew Brees is going to continue to throw the ball. And my thought here with this offense is I really like this matchup specifically, because I think Green Bay is going to defensively is not going to be able to stop these guys, because they're going to have to be on the field constantly. Brett Hundley isn't going to keep this offense out there enough, and this defense is mediocre at best. And if they're going to have to be out there trying to make plays, I just think this sets up for Drew Brees to have a big day.
And I love both backs as well. Green Bay's allowed a 100-yard rusher in 4 of the last 5 games. Mark Ingram is going to get over 100 yards today, and Kamara 15 touches in the last 2 weeks. I like both those backs. I think they're both going to get their work today.
I like both of them too, and I think now that Adrian Peterson is out of the picture, this kind of seems like this offense in totality is coming together in the way that they thought it was. All right, another fantastic premier matchup.
This is
fantastic. Premier. Any premier. Nice word that you want to add in
Top tier here.
Top tier. Let's throw it all in there.
Yep.
We're talking about the Jaguars and the Colts. And there's somebody on this set.
That's right, we are.
Who is in love.
Yes.
Who is in love.
Smitten.
A little kitten.
Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles. All right, let's start things. Might as well start things off with your crush of the week.
All right, ready for this? The crush of the week, Blake Bortles. I only do this because of the facts. The stats back this up, okay?
Yep, okay.
The Colts giving up the 4th most fantasy points to QBs this season with 19.7. Facts, people. Facts. These are the things. Ready for this? The last 2 seasons for Blake Bortles against the Colts, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. These are the facts, people. I don't make them up. I read the numbers.
You are fired up about Blake Bortles.
You know what? I can't believe this is where we are right now. Okay? Jameis Winston, off the team this week. Blake Bortles, starting.
Off the team or on your bench?
Off the team.
Riding the pine. You can
drop Jameis Winston to pick up Blake Bortles. Put my money where my mouth is. Blake Bortles, the crush of the week.
People, do not listen to Chris. I do not advise you to drop Jameis and pick up Blake. If you could keep both of them, I would advise this matchup would make more sense. But what Chris did was not advisable. Do not do that.
Blake Bortles, good for 25 fantasy points this week.
Tell the crowd.
25 fantasy points at least for Blake Bortles this week.
All right. Well, when you're looking at this offense, the biggest name fantasy-wise is Leonard Fournette, who is expected not to play in this matchup. So what does that mean for everybody else?
It means that if you can somehow pick up Chris Ivory, if Chris Ivory's still available, do so.
Because love him this week.
He's going to be the starter here. The Colts, they give up the 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, the 2nd most fantasy points to running backs, the 5th most points to wide receivers,
the
7th most to tight ends. They're almost Patriots level bad in terms of their defense and giving up fantasy production.
The Colts and the Patriots. So bad.
Last week for Chris Ivory, and this is where his value goes even more. One, he's going to run the ball a lot because Leonard Fournette is out. 10 targets for Chris Ivory last week. Can catch the ball out of the backfield as well. That gives him some more value in this offense, and they're going to have to throw the ball with Leonard Fournette being out. And I think this trickles all the way down. I think Mercedes Lewis value goes up because they need somebody to catch passes. They got guys that are banged up. I got a guy to keep an eye on. You know how I do this every week? Keelan Cole. For the Jaguars, yes. Okay. He had 18 targets, and I think he's going to get some of the other targets if they kind of shift around their wide receivers.
Chris has some nuggets today.
That's what I
if Marquise Lee is limited or doesn't play.
And he was limited in practice on Friday, didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday.
Also, Alan Hearn's always a name to watch, 3 targets in each of the last few weeks. If Bortles is going to throw for 1,000,000 yards today, somebody's going to have to catch. Somebody's going to have a big Jacksonville receiver has to have a huge
Somebody has to catch those yards.
All right, both of you. Is there anybody on Indianapolis? I know a lot of people had asked about streaming Jacoby Brissett because he hasn't been horrible fantasy-wise. Actually, he's been pretty decent. I see that you're pointing your finger. You got notes, so let's go to Chris
All of the good things that I just said about Blake Bortles this week, they don't apply for Jacoby Brissett. Okay? Take them out the window.
If you've watched this show, you know there's one thing about Chris that you have to know. There's nothing he loves more in life, not his girlfriend, his mother, his cat, more than he loves the Jaguar secondary.
It's true.
That is 100% accurate.
I do love the Jaguar secondary. Jalen Ramsey may be my favorite player. I may buy a jersey of his.
Wow.
No quarterback has finished for more than 13 fantasy points against this Jaguars defense this year. You cannot play Jacoby Brissett. You can't do it.
You love
the Jacksonville defense?
Yeah.
Oh, they're my favorite. They're my favorite defense in all of football.
Over Baltimore's?
Over Baltimore's.
Okay.
Oh, remember when they were?
They got 44 to Blake Bortles, and then that was it for them.
All right, we're not going to let you go too deep in this. Is there anybody else you like overall in this matchup?
No, but there's somebody I don't like, and I agree with Chris on this. I don't get the Marlon Mack hype.
Yeah. I'm with you guys on that.
Well, he became, sort of a fantasy darling, to use that word that I love, because of that good game that he had. And it's a great idea in principle. The numbers don't back it up. He's 3rd in snaps for this team in terms of the snaps that he's getting. Now, I know Robert Turbin hurt himself on Monday night. He's out for the season. So Mack should get some of those snaps and should be able to get more of those touches. But I think at best he's a high-end flex play. I have him on my team, and I'm sitting him down.
Not in this matchup.
And I don't think in this matchup against a very good Jacksonville defense, no.
I get where people are trying to make Mack a thing because Frank Gore isn't a thing, but this is just overall.
Frank Gore's bad.
Frank Gore is bad.
This looks like it's it.
Kamar Aiken is another guy that I like in this matchup for beyond this game. A guy that I like keeping an eye on because he's getting 44 snaps per game. He has the 2nd highest target percentage, meaning when he's out there, he's getting the ball thrown his way a lot, just behind T.Y. Hilton. I think everyone kind of slides down. T.Y. Hilton, normally you have him as a wide receiver 1. I think he slides down the board a little bit because of this Jacksonville defense. Okay. And you're going to see guys like Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye matched up against them. But
how about the tight end? How about Jack Doyle in this? Do you feel – because the tight end position, guys, we got to be honest here. It's a rough go from a week-to-week basis. And I know that Jacksonville has been great against tight ends.
Yeah, we have to kind of like readjust how we evaluate tight ends because the guys we would say, yeah, probably don't start them are now 6th and 7th and 8th on tight end rankings.
That's probably the weak point on this Jags defense, their ability to stop the tight end. Jack Doyle had 11 targets go his way.
Pretty good for a tight end.
On Monday night's game. So, I mean, look, he's going to get the ball thrown his way when you have a younger quarterback in there that's going to want to not throw the ball deep when he sees Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye staring down at him. So, yeah, I think Jack Doyle is maybe the only Colt that you can justify playing this week.
All right, Cardinals Rams London game. We know London does funky things to NFL teams. It's a very bizarre situation that happens when you get out there. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's really, really ugly. The Cardinals are coming off a big win. The Rams have kind of tempered. They've kind of come back to life a little bit over the last few weeks after starting off really hot, but they're still the #1 scoring offense in the NFL. So what does this mean? Let's start off with the Rams, what you guys like here this week. Most people are loving Jared Goff. Are you guys on that same train?
I am.
You could pass on the Cardinals defense. Just stay away from Patrick Peterson, and everything else is easy points. Now, I know you always talk about like West Coast teams going out east for early start time. So what do you make of 2 West Coast teams going further east for a 10 a.m. start time?
I don't know. I got nothing.
A night game in London.
I have
so
no
here's
idea.
what I will tell you. The Cardinals went out early. The Cardinals went out Monday. The statistic shows that of the teams that have played out there, it favors very heavily the team that goes out there Monday versus the team that goes out Friday. The statistic is, I can't remember it exactly, but Jake Arians was the one, credit to him, who told us that on our podcast. But it's like, it's crazy skewed towards going Monday.
Think about it. You get there on Monday, you have more days to change your body clock.
Adjust
you get there, you leave on Friday, you don't have that time. So it makes sense why the Cardinals would be in better shape. This is a very bad matchup for Todd Gurley this week.
Yeah.
Awful. These are what the running backs have done against the Cardinals this season. Amir Abdullah, 15 carries for 30 yards. Frank Gore, 14 carries, 46 yards and a touchdown. Now, Ezekiel Elliott did have the big game against the Cardinals, 22 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown.
Still under 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
But you were looking at nobody that's gotten over 100 yards. And in 3 of their 6 games that they've played so far, they've given up 1 touchdown. They haven't given up multi-touchdown games.
Yeah.
It's not a great matchup for Todd Gurley unless he gets it in the end zone, and the Cardinals haven't allowed that every week.
So who do you like from that offense? If you're not loving Todd Gurley, you're starting him no matter what because it's Todd Gurley, but just don't expect one of those monstrous weeks this week. Do you like a Robert Woods?
Yes.
Do you like a Cooper Kupp
Yes.
this week?
All of them.
One thing that Jamie did mention, whoever gets Patrick Peterson, good luck with that. But on top of that, the thing is, they are sitting Justin Bethel, Tramon Williams, who we have no idea what to expect is going to have. So that opposite side of the field and the slot position for the Rams is probably going to have their way this week.
The Cardinals have given up 2 touchdowns in every game in terms of receiving, but 2. And they were the games that went to overtime against the 49ers and the Colts. 2 straight games with 5 catches for Robert Woods. You have to think that Sammy Watkins is going to be the guy that gets matched up against Patrick Peterson.
I would assume, yes.
That opens up opportunities for Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I like the tight end position this week. Higbee's probably the guy. He's got more volume. He's getting more targets. But they use all those guys in their offense, so I like them all.
Yeah, you like the 2 options in the middle of the field, Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee as much. I guess Watkins will be on Patrick Peterson, although right now you could probably just cover him with nobody. Then I throw it to him anyway.
Yeah, I don't know who Patrick Peterson's going to get, but whoever that is, I'm assuming it's Sammy Watkins is not going to have a good day.
Yeah, I just think you have to do that because if you put Tramon Williams on Sammy Watkins, all of a sudden Sean McVay may view that matchup and start throwing it to Watkins.
Yeah, he's definitely the biggest threat offensively. Now, from the Cardinals' perspective, Adrian Peterson obviously had a huge week last week. Broke out in a way that nobody could have anticipated, looked very vintage Adrian Peterson. I don't expect him to come back and have that type of a week. But I think what's overall happening here is that this Cardinals offense, they have nobody in that backfield. So Adrian Peterson is going to be the featured back here. So you have to feel pretty good about that. Andre Ellington is looking like he's not going to start in this matchup. So that means maybe Kerwin Williams is going to get a little bit more. They might even start a DJ Foster in this game. So I still like AP. Don't expect the numbers he had last week, but do you guys like anybody else other than Adrian Peterson?
Well, I mean, the Cardinals are the ultimate volume team. Yep. It's volume for Carson Palmer, it's volume for Adrian Peterson, and the Rams' defense hasn't exactly been spectacular. They really haven't been good against the run. So there's a chance that we could have a repeat Adrian Peterson performance.
I like him this week.
I think he has maybe as big of a game as he had last week. This Rams team gives up the most points in fantasy. And, I mean, think about this. You've gone all the way from Arizona all the way to London. You're playing this game. What are you going to want to do? You're going to want to run the football.
Yep.
And Adrian Peterson gave you no reason last week to not give him the football. He gave you every reason to give him the football. So I think it continues this week against the bad Rams run defense.
For sure. And you also look at the fact that DJ Humphries, Alex Boone, this offensive line is finally starting to be healthy. They moved Earl Watford over to the right side, so they're playing in their comfortable spots. So he did have some holes. Now, when we look at the wide receivers, do you like anybody here not named Larry Fitzgerald?
It looks like John Brown is finally starting to reestablish himself in the offense, both for what he's doing and the fact that Jerron Brown is being used less and less. J.J. Nelson's not startable in standard leagues anymore. That was a nice little run that he had. But
yeah, with John Brown sitting out.
Jerron Brown, he's right behind Larry in terms of total targets, but only has 7 total targets in his last 2 games. And Brown, he has 11, or John Brown has 11 over his last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, going into the season, they wanted Larry to be the 1 and John Brown to be the 2. So you have to know that. John Brown is now back. He's finally healthy, looks like, so he is going to be utilized. I'm with Jamie. I think J.J. Nelson in a PPR league, maybe in a deep PPR league, he's a guy who you start with. You know he's not going to have expectations here with some high upside if he catches a touchdown pass, which can always happen when you have Carson Palmer throwing the ball. But it is something to keep an eye on. The Cardinals do not play well in outdoor conditions. London is cloudy, a little bit of rain today. So I think overall the guy you really like is Adrian Peterson. And other than that, you like Fitz, but I would stay away from everybody else here. Let's look at this Jets and Dolphins matchup.
Okay.
The Jets have become a team that, I have to give them some love because
good.
No, not hashtag
not good.
Chris,
good.
You are a Jets fan, and going into the season, you told us, and I agree with you, do not start anybody on the New York Jets.
No, do not do it.
That is different now.
Play them all.
Do not do that.
No, there's a couple.
Pump the
happy
brakes
medium
here.
There's, I think, 3.
Okay, well let's talk about the Jets here.
You want to start with the quarterback position?
Yeah.
So Josh McCown really has been a pleasant surprise with his ability. Now, he did put up 300 yards against the New England Patriots. I think we could put up 350 yards against the New England Patriots because of how bad that defense is.
No, I know I could do it for sure.
The Dolphins, they've allowed a quarterback to throw a touchdown in each game they've played this season, but only once have they allowed a 2-touchdown passer. That was Drew Brees a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And only one quarterback has eclipsed 300 yards against them. That was Phillip Rivers way back in week 2. So you're going to get a touchdown probably today.
Yeah.
But are you going to have a big passing yard game? Probably not. Are you going to have a multi-touchdown game? Probably not. But I still think Josh McCown's a guy, when you have Aaron Rodgers who's banged up, maybe you have a quarterback on a bye. Josh McCown doesn't turn the ball over. He's going to get in the end zone. He is a quarterback option.
Chris, I know we got a graphic here for Jermaine Kearse. What do you love about Jermaine Kearse?
What I like about Jermaine Kearse is when the ball gets thrown his way, he catches it. He has caught 81.25% of the passes that are thrown his way this season. He's in the top 5 of wide receivers in the NFL in that rate. So that means he's, one, getting a lot of targets thrown his way, but he's catching them. So he's making good on those targets is what you like as a fantasy owner. Because, look, it's one thing for a guy to get 12 targets, but if he's only catching 3 of them, you're not getting a whole lot of fantasy points. If he can catch 8 of those 12, that's good for you.
Yeah, that's definitely good and more than you expected heading into this year with the New York Jets. How about Austin Seferian-Jenkins? You like him?
This might be the week he struggles.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I really don't. Now, these two teams met way back in week 3, so we have some history here. Austin Seferian-Jenkins was targeted 6 times in that game. 5 catches for 31 yards. He didn't get in the end zone.
Okay.
So...
But
now,
he has been trending up.
Yeah. Can the Dolphins repeat that defensive performance? I'd like to see it, and we've seen a different Austin Seferian-Jenkins the last couple of weeks, but we have a trend from earlier in the season where these two teams met up where it wasn't a good option for Austin Seferian-Jenkins, and there's a lot of other tight end options that I like this week more than I do.
To stream that position. When we talk about Miami, one of the biggest busts in all of fantasy football this year is Jay Ajayi. He has been overall a guy who has not been what he anticipated. He was ranked coming into the season 3 overall. I just went back to look at the rankings. Unbelievable because he hasn't been the guy. Now, obviously, Jay Cutler last week, they get a win on the road. They go to Atlanta and get a win. They finally looked like they could score points in an offense, and Jay Cutler looked okay. When you guys think about this offense, they have a lot of pieces, but they haven't been able to do much yet. Are you expecting any type of a breakout game? Because the New York Jets are a pretty good defense.
No, because here's the problem. I don't think Jay Cutler is anything special anymore.
No.
And I think that just trickles down the entire offense. I mean, there was a time where Jay Cutler would help with fantasy point. I mean, Jay Cutler,
for sure.
Denver Jay Cutler was a fantasy quarterback to
Chicago
start.
First couple of years, Jay Cutler also
Absolutely.
good. Yep.
But now it's not the same anymore. That trickles down to the wide receivers. With Ajayi not being efficient at all with the touches he's getting, there's no player I'm excited to start on the Dolphins this week.
So with Jay Ajayi, you have to look at what the Jets have done this season. Their first 2 games of the year, they gave up 3 rushing touchdowns and 1 100-yard performance.
Okay.
Since then, 1 rushing touchdown in total in 4 games and 0 100-yard performances. And a run defense from the New York Jets that's been good the last 4 weeks with Jay Ajayi, who can't stay healthy, who's banged up and hasn't put up a good production. I don't like it. Stay away from it.
Listen, this is what we know. We all live in Arizona. This is the Todd Bowles defense that he wanted to have over the last couple of years. It's finally kind of all coming together with the quarterback who can keep this team on the field and not make mistakes. And now this defense is able, with a lot of pieces, to show out and be not a magnificent team, but being a much better team than we thought they were going to be heading into this season.
Now, just because it just came across Twitter, Devontae Parker inactive today.
Okay, good to know.
He was the one guy I liked in this matchup.
So you gotta look elsewhere.
Because in the Week 3 matchup when they played, he had 8 catches for 76 yards, and he caught the lone touchdown that the Dolphins ended up scoring in that game. He's not playing. Do we even remember that Julius Thomas isn't?
No, I mean, I guess that helps Landry a little bit, but it's been the Devontae Parker connection that Jay Cutler has really kind of made here. Everyone thought it was going to be Jarvis Landry. It was going to be, that's going to be the connection. It's not. It's Devontae Parker. There's just not many players in this matchup that I want to start for either team, to be honest with you.
You don't love anybody here, and rest in peace, Julius Thomas, since he left Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not
Peyton Manning creation.
Can you prove to me that he's on the Dolphins? Can you prove it to me?
No,
he'll get 2 catches for 17 yards today.
Right.
Yeah, he's wow. That's what happens when you have one of the greatest of all time throwing you the football. He makes you look much better. All right, Ravens and Vikings. We're going to talk about Minnesota a little bit here. It has been an interesting year for Minnesota thus far. Case Keenum. Not the guy that you thought about starting at the beginning of the year. Didn't even think that he would be near the starting rotation for a quarterback here. But he's been pretty good. He's been able to keep this team above float. They're number 1, they're first in their division, or approaching that with Green Bay now obviously having Aaron Rodgers out. And this team overall has been okay without Sam Bradford, without Teddy Bridgewater. And I'm not advising for starting Case Keenum on a weekly basis, but when you look at certain matchups, he might be a guy that you can stream, especially in a 2-quarterback league. But as far as the running backs go, Dalvin Cook out, obviously, for the season. We have a Latavius Murray and we have Jerick McKinnon. Chris, I know you got some stats here on Latavius Murray. So let's talk about Latavius Murray.
Last week for Latavius Murray, a season high 33 snaps, 55 snaps over his last 2 games. He is out on the field. So I love Jerick McKinnon, good player. They're using him. They like him. Latavius Murray is still a guy that's going to be used in this offense. He was out there for a season-high snaps last week, so he's still going to get used. I like him as a deep flex option.
Okay.
So go back to your point about Case Keenum for a second. I don't like this matchup for him at all. No. I think this is a terrible matchup for him. This Ravens defense, and as we know, I used to love this Ravens defense.
We need a cue for all your little things. Jaguar secondary, this Raiders defense, Ravens defense. Bring up their safeties.
Their safety's really good. Okay. Tony Jefferson, Eric Weddle, maybe the best safety duo in all of the NFL. Only 2 quarterbacks this year have had 200-plus yard games against the Ravens, Big Ben and Blake Bortles. Bortles is the only one of those 2 quarterbacks to have multiple touchdowns against them. I don't like this matchup for Case Keenum. I'm staying away.
Well, I don't know, but those stats tell me that they're bad against bad quarterbacks. So.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure. The Ravens' defense has been up and down thus far. They have allowed Blake Bortles, Mitch Trubisky, some of these quarterbacks that you shouldn't be putting in elite category positions be able to play very good games. I'm not in love with the Ravens defense. I know they came into the season as 3 or 4 overall ranking wise, and they're nowhere near that right now. But you're advising. I just want to make sure the crowd is hearing you correctly. You're advising starting a Latavius Murray over a Jerick McKinnon.
No, not over a Jerick McKinnon. Okay. But
I just want to make sure we don't mince our words.
As a higher end flex play, I think if you're in a tough spot where you have some bye weeks, I think he's still going to be productive in this offense because he's out there on the field.
How about
Jerick McKinnon's the back you want in Minnesota?
Yeah. How about Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen? Kyle Rudolph. Overall totality.
Well, so Diggs being out this week really impacts everybody else. I think it increases the value for Adam Thielen and Kyle Rudolph. And to your point about Jerick McKinnon, I think this increases his value because you need pass catchers out of the backfield. You need pass catchers in general. That's what Jerick McKinnon does well. That's why he's got the edge right now over a Latavius Murray.
So if you have Stephon Diggs, who are you advising? You probably got to try and make sure you have Adam Thielen. If not, there's not really other options that are going to be able to put up Stephon Diggs' numbers because he's been one of the best in fantasy.
You're going to have to go outside of Minnesota to find out.
And if Jermaine Kearse, is an option. We just talked about him in the previous matchup. I like him a lot this week. It's tough. Stephon Diggs, top 5 fantasy wide receiver. So you don't just immediately replace that production. It's kind of the situation we talk about with Aaron Rodgers. You don't replace that.
No, I think another guy that I saw was available in over 50% of leagues is Robert Woods. He's another guy that I like the matchup this week. He's maybe not going to put up Stephon Diggs numbers, but he's at least going to be able to get you something in that matchup. Do you guys like anything for the Ravens this week? I know the Ravens offensively, Joe Flacco, I will continue to preach this. I think he's just injured. I really do. I don't think that he's ever been healthy going into this season at all. This offense is a whole lot of meh. So you guys are going to have to convince me to start anybody here other than I wouldn't start Flacco either.
I mean, I believe every wide receiver that currently or once played for the Ravens is questionable this week.
So Macklin out.
Yes.
Rashad Perriman out.
Shocking.
Mike Wallace is questionable.
So who are they playing?
And here's the tough part.
Guys you don't know.
Here's the tough part. The wide receiver department is where the Minnesota Vikings defense has struggled this year.
Yeah.
They've given up the 12th most fantasy points to wide receivers, yet the Ravens have one wide receiver, and I don't even like Mike Wallace. No, I don't think he's a good fantasy option.
This is a rough.
I don't think personally against Mike Wallace. I just, in terms of fantasy, I don't like him.
Oh, you don't like Mike Wallace?
Mike. Great. Sorry, Mike. So this is where the matchup says, play the Ravens wide receivers. Ravens don't have any wide receivers.
Yeah, you can't. There's nobody to play here.
Jamie's pulling up the depth chart here.
Michael Campanaro? Oh, God.
He did return a punt for a touchdown last week.
I think, you know what I think it's a good time for? Some Twitter questions.
You're going to do this to me right now?
Yeah, you got to. Okay. I'm going to force Chris to do something that is very, very hard.
All right.
One
very technological.
One button.
Are you ready for this? I have the tweet up here. Ready?
Okay. Make it happen, Chris.
I think I did it. I'm going to put this over here just in case. There you go.
Hey. You did it! Yay, Chris! You figured it out.
Okay.
All right, let's scroll through here because I see. Let's start at the top.
So
let's make sure we refresh this.
This is the top.
Okay, let's.
So this is what you tweeted.
Okay, we got 10 questions here.
And then here you go.
All right, Deshaun Jackson or Brandon Cooks from Cody. That is a 120% Brandon Cooks.
It's easy.
Yes, Cooks.
Anybody else?
Cooks.
Okay.
Cooks.
Raphael, I need a flex in the standard league. Devontae Adams, Chris Thompson, Derrick Henry, and LeGarrette Blount. Also Seattle's D or Bills. I would say Seattle defense.
Yeah, Bills defense against the Bucs with an injured Jameis Winston.
That's true.
Yes.
Okay.
I like that a lot.
I'll go Buffalo this week.
And I'm going Derrick Henry. What is your running back situation where you can have Derrick Henry as a flex? That must be nice.
Also, LeGarrette Blount has been the starting running back there for the Eagles. So I don't know if he's telling us to choose one. If I'm choosing one,
it's Derrick Henry, I think.
I don't know. LeGarrette Blount's the #1 overall guy. So I don't know that I go to the backup in terms of touches. Because it's a standard league.
Yeah,
this isn't
I'm
a
assuming,
PPR league.
Yeah, assuming he's not playing a standard league on ESPN, which standard in ESPN is now PPR.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is no PPR. It's LeGarrette Blount. In PPR, I still like Chris Thompson. He's still Rob Kelly being back doesn't change the way they're going to use Thompson in that offense.
And I have some stats on him when we get towards the end of the show. All right, this one comes from Lou. Wentz or Rivers and C.J. Anderson start or sit?
Wentz.
Carson Wentz.
All the passing in that game. Yeah. All of the passing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz.
No Josh Norman in that game. No. Carson Wentz is going to throw all over the place.
And C.J. Anderson.
He had, listen, here's the thing with C.J. what happened. He had one bad week. The Denver Broncos decided he had I think it was 9 touches. They gave him the ball way less than they had been in previous games. Made no sense. You obviously saw that their offense struggled. So I see them going back to what they need to, especially because Trevor Siemian has an injury in his shoulder.
Yeah, I am going to start C.J. Anderson this week. I just want to give a shout out to Tim here because he answered the question properly. He asked the question and told us who he had in the other positions to make this decision easier.
So
this is
Cards
helpful.
Fan 37, McCaffrey or Tevin Coleman in the flex. I've been dreading this all week. I have Freeman and Howard at running back ready. I love it.
Okay. Now, I'm trying to figure out what he did to draft Freeman, Howard, and McCaffrey where they were all going in drafts. I hope you have a few wide receivers, Tim.
That's my question.
And maybe he doesn't. He's in a good position.
Tim. Yeah, no, great.
All right.
I'm saying Tevin Coleman.
Okay, I'm going to go. What do you have? Because I have a theory on this.
I don't like either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't like either. But
Tevin Coleman.
All right.
But because the Patriots, they're going to allow 1 million yards.
I got some stats on Tevin Coleman.
This is going well for me then.
Show.
Because look at this. Devonta Freeman, he's very good, right? We all agree?
Yes.
Very good. Jordan Howard, very good. We all agree,
Very good. Temper expectations a little bit.
Okay, but very
this
good.
Week.
So what can we then do with our flex position? We can go a little bit more high upside.
Is McCaffrey high upside?
We're going Christian McCaffrey on the high upside.
What makes McCaffrey high upside?
Because I think he's going to be used more in the passing game this week, as he always is. And I think
so the usual.
And I think there are a couple of touchdowns that could go his way this week.
I'll believe it when I see it. Tevin Coleman has a 3 times better chance of catching a touchdown this week than Christian McCaffrey.
And Tevin Coleman also has been getting more. The matchup's good. He's playing New England. New England does not have a good defense. And as far as high upside goes, I have some stats behind Tevin Coleman that we'll get to at the end of the show that say he's trending upward, so I'm 100% going Tevin Coleman. All right, Derrick Henry or Chris Thompson? I'm going Chris Thompson.
Yeah, someone's going to have to buy me a Chris Thompson jersey at this rate.
Me too. Someone's got to buy me a Chris Thompson jersey.
All right, this one comes from a fake BA account. Is AP the man or nah?
Nah. This week?
Yes.
But he is startable this week.
And he's absolutely startable on a week-to-week basis.
Paige, look, you got a little shout out.
They're asking you for a follow.
Yeah, you got to get a follow.
Give us a follow for fantasy football advice. Hi, Roger, and no, I'm not going to follow you. When people ask me to follow
John,
them,
by the way, I'm skipping him, but John, it's okay. It's okay, John. Also, for all of you that said
John, I'm sorry.
If you said Amari Cooper, too.
I'm sorry.
Again, and by the way, next week when he gets 3 for like 37 yards and you're going to hate yourself, just apologize in advance.
For Justin's question, I like Rashard Matthews.
Me and Jamie both have the same.
You guys are so high on the Tevin Coleman bandwagon.
I also am high on Rashard Matthews. I like both.
I like both.
That's not enough.
I'm going to go with Tevin Coleman because his quarterback is healthier.
I'm going to go with Tevin Coleman also because I like anybody playing New England.
I'm going to do something bold here. I'm going to hit the show more replies button and see if it doesn't
This could really go
Apologies in advance.
It could screw everything up.
Apologies in advance.
Oh, no, it did. All
right, Paige. I've convinced myself to bench Funchess since KB is playing and the weather looks bad. Here are my options: LeGarrette Blount, Tevin Coleman, Darkwa, Hilton, Funchess, or Fitz. Pick 5. So wow, this is a lot.
All right,
for us to pick.
Everybody but Darkwa.
Yeah, this is easy. Bench Darkwa. Everybody else start.
There we go. Very easy.
Apologies to Tulane.
But he has some pretty good options here.
Now,
he's been 5. You have a pretty good squad
I want to contend something here.
Okay.
I don't think we should be benching Devin Funchess all that much this week over Kelvin Benjamin. I don't know if I agree with that.
Let me scroll back up here. So I had some interesting stats on those guys. So kill time while I'm scrolling.
Sure. I just don't. As we know, I was very high on the Devin Funchess bandwagon a couple weeks back. Worked out pretty well, by the way.
I love Funchess, but that doesn't mean that just because Kelvin Benjamin's going to be like. I don't think that makes Funchess any less good.
Yes, they both can be successful. To Chris's point, Devin Funchess, since Greg Olsen went down in week 1, 42 targets. But Kelvin Benjamin has at least 99 yards or a touchdown in each of his last 3. I would start Benjamin over Funchess, but I think there are room to play both, which I think you should do this week.
Here's another note, though, because of the matchup. The Chicago Bears sell out to the #1 overall wide receiver every week. So that would mean Kelvin Benjamin is probably going to be sold out to, which means that Devin Funchess is going to be the guy who probably doesn't see as much attention, and that means that he will have a good week. I'm starting both of them this week, but I think it's just something to note that if you go back through the Bears throughout the past few weeks, or throughout the season, they sell out to the #1 overall guy, and none of their #1 overall wide receivers have had a good
By the way,
matchup.
we could take T.Y. Hilton out there.
Not over Orleans Darkwa.
No. Oh, fair enough. But no, to get both Funchess and KB in, we can take...
Well, they said pick 5. So in that case, because Funchess was one of those options.
Right, but so
we're saying to start Funchess.
Okay, we're putting Funchess in, but then can we take Then can we take Hilton out for...
It's not that hard. There are 6 names.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are 7 names.
Chris,
there are 7
names.
No,
she doesn't say that she owned, or he or she, I can't tell because of the picture, but it doesn't say that they own Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah.
It says that they're benching Funchess because
fair
Benjamin
enough.
Was playing.
I was assuming that they had Kelvin Benjamin.
They listed 6 options and said pick 5. This is not tough.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Pick 5.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
It's the Kelvin Benjamin part that had me confused. I was trying to get them both in the lineup.
What we've learned here is that Chris is not very good at math. Please make your questions easier because Chris is struggling today. Okay, so please make sure.
I'm going to switch this back now.
Okay, you're going to switch it back because Chris is sad that we're making fun of him. So now we need to continue on.
I don't want to do this anymore.
We need to continue on.
Okay, what do you got?
We're going to Cowboys and Niners.
This is a fun matchup.
That should be great in the 80s.
Cowboys are coming off a bye. The bye week has been good to teams coming back. They're overall healthy. They're looking much better. This Ezekiel Elliott stuff is very peculiar. We don't know whether he's ever going to
he's
not.
Playing.
Yeah, he's playing in this matchup,
this week.
And I don't know what's going to happen with him. I don't know if he's ever going to sit through this suspension ever. So I would just play everybody, obviously, at this point, and do not start making cute trades with Ezekiel Elliott because I don't think that is ever going to happen. But when we look at Dez Bryant, when we look at Dak Prescott, when we look at Jason Witten, who do you guys like overall most in this offense other than Ezekiel Elliott, who is a must-start every week?
Well, it's a great matchup for Dak Prescott. Niners have allowed 3 straight 300-plus yard passers, allowing the 7th most points to fantasy QBs this year. This is easy. Start Dak Prescott.
Jason Witten?
Yep.
On the pine. sitting him down, okay?
Wow.
He's got 38.
On the pine. You got to move for it. On the pine.
On the pine. He's got 38 targets on the season. Sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Wrong. The 49ers, they've had success against the tight ends.
Right?
0 touchdowns allowed to tight ends this season. They have not allowed a tight end to gain more than 65 yards. So you're not getting in the end zone. You're not getting more than 65 yards. I'm sitting Jason Witten.
Okay.
On the pine.
On the pine.
On the pine.
I need a gif of Chris doing this. On the pine. He is officially.
You can play Des Bryant, though. He's a clear wide receiver 1 play because
you're starting the X. You're starting
yeah, we're throwing up the X this week. Team leading 48 targets. I like Cole Beasley and Terrence Williams as flex options. This passing offense, outside of Jason Witten, I love for the Dallas Cowboys this week because the 49ers, bad.
Really? Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. 49ers,
this is breaking news that you have coming in here. All right, so when we look at the 49ers, is there anybody that we like? Do we like anybody here?
I'm not doing this. You cannot make me play C.J. Beathard. It's not happening. You're not gonna trick me.
No one should play C.J.
You're not gonna trick me with the idea that the Dallas Cowboy defense is bad. I'm not falling for the trap.
Well, both things can be true.
They can. These are not.
It's true.
But Dallas defense cannot be good, but C.J. Beathard is not good.
As somebody who watches Big Ten football very closely,
you know this.
C.J. Beathard is not good. Was not good in college. Is not going to be good for the 49ers. They are just trying to figure out what they have here. That is what they're trying to do here offensively. So when we look at Carlos Hyde, when we look at Pierre Garçon, when we look at some of these other specific position players, do we like anybody else here?
PPR Garçon's always going to find his. I like both backs.
I do too, because they're going to run the ball.
Oh, you like both backs.
Because they're going to have to run the ball.
Okay.
Because they have, again, C.J. Beathard playing quarterback.
Yeah, he's trash.
He's not good.
Yeah.
He should be on the pine. Should be on the pine for
he might not even be on the pine. He might be like out of the NFL after he plays for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
I don't even know. I don't know what is passed on the pine, but we got to figure out what that terminology is.
I'm not sure why he's in it. I've seen an obscene amount of live Iowa games for some reason in which Beathard was the starting quarterback, and it's not good for your health.
I'm sorry.
Not great for your health. But Chris, you need to keep up with your gimmick here.
Okay.
All right. So what is Beathard?
He is a rookie quarterback.
What do rookie quarterbacks love?
They love the tight end.
Why do you love Kittle?
George Kittle. I mean, this is exactly why. 8 targets last week, 17 over the last 2, and that's a good thing because he had 8 targets last week in a game that C.J. Beathard came in relief.
You love George Kittle.
I'm playing him this week. I put my money where my mouth is, people. I don't just say things on the show and not do them. Playing Blake Bortles, playing George Kittle this week.
But yeah.
But then he might suffer with you. What he's saying is if his picks are wrong, he's going to suffer with you. And be sure to send all of your hate to Chris R. Schubert on Twitter if that happens.
But I actually really like George Kittle this week. Again, the rookie quarterback thing, they like the tight end, and Kittle has been involved in the offense for the last couple of weeks.
All right, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, next matchup. This is a... I'm still trying to figure out what the hell the Pittsburgh Steelers are, because they had one good game on the road, which never happens. They usually play much better at home. So this is a very weird, like, I just am trying to figure out overall. Le'Veon Bell, always starting him. I don't need to tell you guys that. Martavis Bryant, his girlfriend's putting out on Twitter and Instagram that he wants to get traded. Then he comes out and says he doesn't want to get traded. I'm not quite sure if he wants to play there. He's not getting a lot of targets. So what does that mean? The guy I like here the most is Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, that's my guy. I love Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, why do you like him, though?
Well, because it wasn't just a fluke that one week where he had a good game. He's been heavily involved in this offense and getting a lot of targets thrown his way. The interesting thing to me is I saw this morning that there's going to be an increased role for Martavis Bryant this week. At least that's the rumor that is out there, that because of everything
squeaky wheel gets the oil type thing?
Yeah. So that is the thing that I'm interested to keep an eye on. Do they maybe throw him the ball more just to maybe keep him happy? I don't know. Or
increase his value to trade him, which is
that as well. I mean, that's certainly possible. They could certainly be doing that.
I do think when I look at these offensive pieces in totality, the one thing here that a lot of people are trying to figure out is what is Ben Roethlisberger, okay? Because he is traditionally a much better quarterback at home. His home performances thus far has been a huge disappointment, but there are a couple of guys who I want you to check on, Chris, live on the show. You got to see if Jones or Kirkpatrick are sitting out defensively for Cincinnati, because if they are, Ben Roethlisberger gets upgraded in this matchup. I'm going to give you this stat about the Steelers' pass defense, which totally threw me off, okay? They have played 6 games, and in those games, they have yet to allow the combination of a wide receiver 1, 2, 3, and a tight end to combine for more than 149 yards and 1 touchdown. What does that mean? On Cincinnati's side of the ball, that means I'm very weary of starting anybody here. I'm starting AJ Green because he's AJ Green, but everybody else is riding the pine this week because the Steelers have been able to really shut down everybody offensively.
Yeah, Green and Mixon are the only Bengals you could even justify playing at all this week, and even Mixon is a flex play at best. But Green's going to get his ever since they stopped targeting him. Bill Lazor decided, you know what, maybe we'll target our best player on offense a little bit. 33 targets in 3 games since Lazor took over. You got to start him. But yeah, Pittsburgh's pass defense has been very strong this week. So if you're desperate, Andy Dalton is not an option for you.
So I'm here to give you the bad breaking news that the inactive reports are not in for this game, as of this moment.
They're not in for any game yet.
No, they're in for the morning game.
Because this is the afternoon, that's right.
Yeah, the afternoon, the 4:25 Eastern time start.
Random Steelers-Patriots 4:25 start times.
Yeah, so no inactives on that regard. So
all right, well,
I'll keep an eye on it.
We'll keep an eye on that, and that's one I'll tease. If you want to go on Twitter later on, we can figure out what's going on with there. Ben Roethlisberger is still a starting quarterback in a QB 16 league. I know that he's been struggling. I know he's had some rough games, but you gotta watch the trend, and it looks like finally they're figuring themselves out offensively. They had a tough matchup in going on the road to Arrowhead, and now they're back home. This matchup always brings out the best in both teams. The Cincinnati Pittsburgh is one of the best rivalries in all of sports. They always play each other tough, so I think you're going to get the best out of Ben Roethlisberger this week. But like I said, Juju Smith-Schuster I love. Le'Veon Bell you're always playing. Martavis Bryant is a guy that I look in a flex spot with some high upside, but also knowing that he might not get the ball at all because all this trade talk is very strange.
Yes, look at Martavis Bryant as if he's just a Mike Wallace plus.
Yeah.
That's the way he's being used in this offense. He could have 2 for 97 and a touchdown and help you win your week, or he could have 2 for 14 and you never see him in the second half. Also, if you play an IDP league, you might not want to start Vontaze Burfict because you might not make it out of the first half.
That's very accurate.
Coming from somebody who watches them routinely, Vontaze Burfict always kind of struggles. The tight end group here does nothing for me.
Oh, you're not a Jesse James fan?
No.
Okay, Jesse James is worthless as he doesn't get in the end zone. Absolutely worthless. Tyler Kroft is the guy now with Tyler Eifert sitting out. He has seen 16 targets in the last 3 games, so that is good news for him. I don't like this overall for matchup-wise. The Steelers have held the tight ends in check. They haven't allowed any of them to start in a tight end 15 thus far this season. So what does that mean? A guy who's the backup, and this matchup, I don't like it this week.
No, I agree.
Anybody else you guys like in this matchup specifically?
No. I
think it's AJ Green and Joe Mixon, and that's what you like. And then Steelers offensively, you're playing it pretty much everybody.
You know who to start. Temper expectations for Martavis Bryant as always.
And I give the nod to Juju Smith-Schuster this week.
He's being used in the offense more.
Yep. More targets every week. All right, Denver and the LA Chargers. This next matchup, this will be the second matchup for these two teams, divisional rivals. We saw what happened. Phillip Rivers went on the road to Denver in the first game of the season and had himself a pretty good game. This is now in LA, which will be like
he's on the road again.
He's on the road again. This will be more like a home, but they won't have that same Denver atmosphere. The altitude, there's only 27,000 seats in the stadium, so it's kind of a bizarre setup for football. But this Broncos team had a rough week last week. The New York Giants came into Denver and played a good football game, and I was confused as to what that Denver defense was anymore because that game was confusing. It was the outlier, so I tend to look at it and throw it out. But I like Phillip Rivers, and I like this matchup for them because I think they showed you already earlier on this season that they could do it against this Denver team.
Yeah, it's a pretty good matchup for Rivers if you're desperate. Again, maybe I'm falling into this narrative, but this is a bad time to catch the Broncos.
Yeah, I agree.
You're much more likely to get them when they're riding high and maybe thinking everything's going well. I think they're going to be laser focused this week, and I just don't think the Chargers are anything special. I think Denver's defense is going to come out with something to prove against Rivers, who can be very turnover prone. So he might get 2 or 3 touchdowns, but he also might get 2 or 3 interceptions.
Yeah, I like Melvin Gordon this week. I'm always starting Melvin Gordon. As far as Phillip Rivers, he's maybe in a 16-team league. I think he's startable this week just because he did have success against Denver. But I try not to buy into the narrative all the time, but this narrative does make sense with the Denver Broncos.
Well, look at it. I mean, the Bills caught them after they were riding high off of that game against Dallas, and they beat them. And now they're angry. They let the New York Giants get their first win against them. That defense is not happy.
For sure.
And I think I like Blake Bortles more than I like Phillip Rivers this week.
I like Blake Bortles more than everybody in the world.
Yeah, you love Blake Bortles.
That's
so
not
let's
true
not,
at all. I'm the king of yelling about Blake Bortles.
Okay.
It's just this week.
Yeah. All right, Trevor Siemian turned into this.
No, I'm not letting you get away with this. You have a note in here about a guy who I hate.
Oh, Hunter Henry?
I don't know how you're going to...
Okay. The Broncos have been beaten by tight ends this year. These are the stats, the facts.
The facts, just the facts. These are the facts.
Allowing the 3rd most yards per game and 3 touchdowns. So I start Hunter Henry this week because the tight end position is garbage overall. So when you look at this, trash, Jamie's word. So when I'm looking at it, this is not where I'm riding the pine for old Hunter Henry.
Henry's riding the pine.
Hunter Henry's targets have gone up every week. He's seeing more snaps every week. What does that mean? He's trending upwards. And when you look at this matchup specifically, because of what I'm going to say next, I think that this defense is going to be on the field a lot because Trevor Siemian is a fantasy pumpkin. He's turned into a fantasy pumpkin.
That's a good theme. We're like 9 days away from Halloween.
After posting, look at this. After posting back-to-back 22-point outings, a lot of that because of what he was doing with his legs. He has failed to score more than 16 points since then with 2 below 12 performances. Is that good?
That's not good.
Not great.
It's not good. What does that mean? He's a fantasy pumpkin. He started off great, and now he's folded in Cinderella stuff.
You were spitting facts. Can I spit a fact?
Go ahead.
Hunter Henry didn't get a ball thrown his way at one point this season.
That was at the beginning of the year, and now he's trending upwards.
Facts.
Here's the thing. At one point this season, the first game of the year.
I think it was the second game, actually.
First and second, actually.
Yeah,
but he's more snaps, more targets. I don't love Hunter Henry. I'm just saying in that tight end position, he's streamable this week.
You're not crushing on Hunter Henry this week?
No, that would be only set for you. That's set for Chris. That's Chris's thing.
That's your gimmick.
And I'm not crushing on Hunter Henry.
No.
In case anyone was wondering.
All right, Seattle and the New York Giants. Seattle coming off a bye, going to the East Coast. This is a later kickoff, so it's not one of those where I watch the West Coast team go east. It's a body clock timing. It will be a normal game for the Seattle Seahawks. The New York Giants get their first victory of the season, but I'm not leading to believe in this game that Seattle is going to somehow crumble in New York after New York just had one good game. Seattle's coming off a bye, and we all know what happens with Seattle. They get better as the years go on. This is a theme. This has been since Pete Carroll has been there. This team gets better as the year goes on, and it's getting to that point where the Rams are winning, the Cardinals are turning things around, the Seahawks have to keep pace. So I think that's something to pay attention to here.
The problem here is, and this is nothing new, I'm not going to break any news here, Seattle's offensive line is bad.
And Jokel is out for next 6 weeks or something.
He had surgery.
Out for a while. Yeah.
So,
no, this is not good.
Russell Wilson runs for his life every week.
Yeah. That's the problem here with projecting a big total. That's the problem here when you are looking at Russell Wilson. He's still a quarterback one, and he has a lot of high upside. But know that he could hit the floor here because he could be running for his life. Now, that could mean he gets a lot of junk plays, and he runs the ball, and he ends up rushing for a lot of yards.
And that increases his value because he can run the ball, as we talk about with quarterbacks all the time. So,
I mean, on the flip side, Eli Manning, do not start him. Okay, I know that he had one good game, but let's pump the brakes there.
All right.
We got a graphic here for Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin is projected to be a top wide receiver. These are his numbers thus far. He's averaged 4.3 receptions for 44.8 yards and no touchdowns. Is that good, guys?
It's not.
It's not very good.
And he's going to have to break out at some point, right? And the Giants are banged up. They're on both sides of the ball. I just don't think. It's so tough to project this offense with that offensive line.
Yeah, I don't think when you've seen the matchups that they've played against thus far, when you consider that the Giants have a little bit of confidence now after they get their first win, they're at home, Seattle's on the road. Doug Baldwin, 6 games in, should have had a breakout game. So he's not a wide receiver 1 anymore. You start him in a wide receiver 2 or a flex spot, knowing that if he does have that type of breakout game, he could end up in that top tier position.
And you like Jimmy Graham as well. The Giants are not great against a tight end, a top 13 tight end against them every single week. But I think this is
making graphics appear, Paige. Just pointing at him. It's like a power. It's like a magical power that you have.
I know. Only me, though, not you two.
No, I can't do that.
So Jimmy Graham owners are finally starting to get a little bit of return from their investment.
Worst in the league in defending tight ends.
Here, I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if I can make a graphic appear. Ready? Nothing.
Nope, nothing for you. Nothing for you.
You do not have the power.
I do not have the power. Okay. So
honestly, though, I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game, and I think that's what you've seen with the Seattle offense. It's not they don't have the ability to put up points. Russell Wilson is always running for his life. I think this is going to be a game that both teams could be in the teens or low 20s.
They've also allowed top 13 performance to tight end every week that they've played thus far. So that means this is a good week. If you drafted Jimmy Graham, the matchup cannot get possibly any better for you. So if he does not have a good week this week, good Lord, he's riding the pine.
Yep, on the pine. Get him off.
He is on the pine.
Get him off.
All right,
there.
the Super Bowl rematch.
Oh.
The Atlanta Falcons, the New England Patriots. How many times are we going to hear about the 28-3? The prop bet would say probably about 25 times during this game. It's going to be a lot of that. But guys, I have a stat for you. I have a stat for you.
Yes.
If I were to ask you where Matt Ryan was in quarterbacks this year.
That's normally what I do. I normally am the one that's posing these questions.
Where would you guys say Matt Ryan, who was the #1 overall fantasy quarterback last year, would be this year? Where is he?
QB 11 would be my guess.
15?
He is quarterback 25.
It's not great.
That's not good. Not good if you drafted Matt Ryan hoping that he would have a really good year.
Now, hold on.
Okay.
If you have Matt Ryan and you're worried,
which a lot of people are because I've been getting a lot of tweets.
I got quite the solution for you.
What's the solution,
Just play the New England Patriots.
Yeah, there is nothing that will make your confidence go up higher than playing a trash New England Patriots defense. I can't even believe I'm saying that, but that is where we are. It is week 7, and the New England Patriots defense is not good. They are not good. So this is a good matchup for everybody. I shouldn't have to tell you to start Devontae Freeman. You're starting Matt Ryan. You're starting Devontae Freeman. You're starting the one guy that we talked about earlier that we got into a little bit was Tevin Coleman. This is the guy who
spit this facts that you guys had were like, Chris, wait until we get to this matchup.
He's been averaging 9 more touches per game over the last 3 weeks. That means that I like him. He's on the upside. I like him in a flex position this week because that way, if you put him there and he scores a touchdown, if you get a touchdown from your flex play, you're pretty much coasting right in for a victory.
Yeah,
I'm not buying it.
He's being used in the passing game a ton. I think that's where you want him most. And you're starting Julio Jones, but I have a stat for you guys.
Woo! Jamie bringing this.
How many red zone targets does Julio Jones have this season?
0.
3.
Okay. How many targets do I have in the red zone this year?
0.
Add 1 to that, and that's how many Julio Jones has.
Wow, so bad.
So they could talk
also injured.
Restraining order on him.
I said they have a restraining order against the end zone. And again, they could talk all they want of, no, we're going to get Julio Jones involved in the red zone this week. For about 2.5 years now, it's not happening. Just know that going in. You're starting Julio Jones, but just know that going in.
So my love this week.
No.
You know how I've been locking and loaded.
You can't be crushing. You can lock and load.
I've been locking and loaded.
Okay.
It's overall in the tight end position, and that is Austin Hooper this week. Okay, Austin.
You did it again. You just made a graphic happen. How does that work?
It's
I don't have that
skills.
ability.
The Patriots have now allowed a touchdown to the tight end position in 5 of 6 games. Is that good?
You could replace tight end with any position, and that statistic's probably accurate.
Number 4 wide receiver.
It would be accurate.
Here's the thing with Hooper, though. This is a guy that he had a good game against Chicago at the beginning of the year.
Everybody freaked out.
Everybody freaked out.
Pick up Austin Hooper.
Exactly, overreacted. But I do like this matchup specific to him because New England has struggled against the tight end position. Like we said, the tight end position is overall not very good. So you look at an Austin Hooper this week and you like him.
Yes, I agree.
Also leads all Falcons in red zone targets and touches. Or excuse me, catches and targets.
All right, last matchup here. Monday Night Football.
Fantasy points galore.
Fantasy points for everybody. The Oprah meme where she's pointing at everybody gets points. Everybody gets points in this matchup. That is Washington and Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Eagles are probably the biggest surprise of this season. They are 5-1. They are surprising everybody. They're at home. Carson Wentz. Let's just talk about him for a second, guys. He's good. Carson Wentz is good, and not just good regular quarterback. The good fantasy quarterback.
QB3
Very good.
last week?
Yep.
Yeah.
With the game against Carolina where he played really impressive on the road, and you tend to think that there's not a lot of offense that's going to happen on a Thursday night game on a short week. Now, Philly gets extra time to prepare for this game because they go from a Thursday to a Monday game. That's super helpful. Carson Wentz, legitimate fantasy quarterback option.
Yeah, no, and on the flip side, when we look at the other quarterback here, Kirk Cousins has posted 15-plus points and 280-plus yards in 5 straight games. Okay, that's pretty good.
Also 3 over that time span as well.
Yeah, the Eagles have allowed 5 straight top 12 fantasy performances. What does that mean? This is a recipe for success for Kirk Cousins. So there's across the board here, I like pretty much everybody from a fantasy perspective. The only one we're going to talk about, and that's because Chris and I got duped into liking this guy heading into the season, especially Chris.
We were wamboozled. That's the word I'll use. Wamboozled.
Wamboozled. Thought it was bamboozled.
I don't know
if
wamboozled is a word.
Bamboozled
I just made it a word.
Is the word. Talk about Samaje Perine.
I mean, it managed just 2.9 yards per carry on 34 carries since week 3. just not doing it, not working out the way we expected it.
Not enough.
And part of it has to do with how good Chris Thompson has been. I think if there is no Chris Thompson in the equation, Samaje Perine probably has a bigger workload, probably is able to be more successful. But if you're the Washington Redskins, how can you not continue to just wear out Chris Thompson and continue to ride him as far as he'll take you?
Yeah, I mean, they want to keep his touches semi-limited, a little bit more than Tariq Cohen, based on about getting around 20 per game. But Rob Kelly looks like he's going to be back this week. That's the starting running back you want. Chris Thompson is a flex play every single week the way they use him in the passing game. Everybody else in the Redskins backfield can what, Chris?
They can ride the pine?
This is your gimmick.
This is your gimmick, Chris.
I didn't know what we were doing. Sorry.
You got to get there. Yeah,
they're riding the pine.
Chris Thompson came out of the bye and had 20 touches. That's about where he's going to be for the rest of the year. And if Rob Kelly stays healthy, this is actually where you like them, because Rob Kelly being the number 1 overall back is what Washington wants. And Chris Thompson being in that position is overall what they're looking for. Now, from the Eagles' perspective, offensively, let's look at Alshon Jeffrey. Let's talk about Nelson Aguilar. I know that Chris is dying to talk about Nelson Aguilar, so I will allow for him to talk about Nelson Aguilar here. Go ahead,
He's
Chris.
been so good, and I think the big thing about it is he's finally starting to produce in terms of the touchdown department. That was the struggle for him. And they kind of needed somebody to emerge because they only have Alshon Jeffrey on a 1-year deal. They drafted Aguilar in the first round. They needed him to produce. And yes, Jeffrey's going to be a guy that takes a lot of the attention away. And where Aguilar is going to work best is in the middle of the field. Yeah. He's able to just catch passes and go from there. He's got some great speed, and he's been very successful the last couple of weeks.
I really like this matchup for Alshon Jeffrey, and that is because Josh Norman is not playing in this game. So I think that breakout game is coming for him, and I think this is probably the matchup for it. This is going to be that high-scoring game. I think there's going to be a lot of passing. There's going to be a lot of touchdowns in this game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. And this could end up being the two teams that we did not think would be at the top of the division. These two teams could be vying for the top number 1 overall spot and one of the best in the NFC, which is awesome to watch.
Now, can we talk about my favorite tight end?
No.
I'm a big fan of this guy.
This is where I wish that I had the playback button, so I could play back weeks 1 through 5, where Chris told me not to start Zach Ertz, and I told all of you to start Zach Ertz. What has happened? Zach Ertz is overall right now in ESPN PPR scoring
tight end 1. Yep, the top
number 1.
He's good.
Number 1.
He's very good.
So,
Big
Chris,
fan.
now is your time to atone for your sins.
I've done it the last couple of weeks.
So
I was
tell
wrong
everybody
about
Zach Ertz.
I was wrong about Zach Ertz. He's playing extremely well. Washington giving up 81.4 yards per game to opposing tight ends. And because of the need in that Philadelphia offense for pass catchers, Carson Wentz is going to keep going to Zach Ertz.
Yep.
And he's going to continue to produce.
Both secondaries are very banged up. All the passing in this game.
All of the passing. All
Jordan,
of the points.
Jordan Reed, everybody.
Okay, we got a couple more questions. I'll just read them off to you guys.
You're
going to do it?
I was going to do it.
Wow, Chris is really,
All right,
he's going to do
press the
it.
button twice today.
This is big time for Chris.
We're not doubling your pay.
No, that's okay. All right, so we're good here. So
okay, so we got another
now
one.
Some of the other ones are mixed in here just because Twitter did this to me.
We didn't get to Jacob,
No.
Cameron Brate, or Jordan Reed.
I like Jordan Reed. Passing everywhere in that game on Monday.
Yeah, I like Jordan Reed because he's going to actually play this week.
Yeah, you have to play Jordan Reed.
Moncrief or Cooper Kupp?
I like Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp.
I like Cooper Kupp or James White or
Okay.
neither.
Bold prediction.
Oh boy.
Mike Gillislee is inactive this week. That's my bold prediction.
Wow.
I don't think they're gonna dress all their running backs with Burkhead back.
Listen, if we've learned anything about Bill Belichick and what he does with the running backs, that would not surprise me one little bit. So I would say, yeah, you got to sit.
Did you already screw this up, Chris?
Now I'm just checking to make sure there were no other ones. We're good. So now.
Where are you going here, Chris?
There's no more questions.
I got one on
there
here.
you go. So
Aguilar, Hearns, or Treadwell?
Nelson Aguilar.
I think that's easy. Yeah, Aguilar.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's simple.
I would agree with you guys. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun.
We're very glad you're back, Jamie.
Yeah.
We're very glad.
Yeah, Chris tried to host a show and went horribly wrong.
Chris, is there any parting thoughts that you have for the people? Because I know that you always like to have a little hot take or a cold take, as I would say. So go ahead.
The Browns win their first game this week. They beat the Tennessee Titans. Blake Bortles goes for 25 fantasy points, and Latavius Murray has a good game.
Wow.
Those are my parting thoughts. There you go. 3 hot takes for you in a row.
Keep in mind, if you're starting any Packers players, that even though Aaron Jones is getting more snaps, Ty Montgomery was a little bit more productive with the snaps with the touches that he got last week. So you might want to avoid that situation. And in that same game, the Saints' passing defense is actually kind of good. So
weird.
just temper your expectations for all Packers without Aaron Rodgers and against the Saints.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a rude awakening for Green Bay Packer fans. They are going to learn that Aaron Rodgers has been able to cover up for a lot of holes on this team overall, offensive line injuries, issues with wide receivers not catching the ball, and Martellus Bennett might be the only guy who reaps the benefits and becomes a little bit better. But Jamie and Chris, thanks guys for joining us. For Jamie Eisner, Chris Schubert, I'm Paige DeMacos. This has been Pigskin with Pancakes.